Israel's war on the besieged Gaza Strip is intensifying. Israel has killed more than 7,000 Palestinians, including nearly 3,000 children, as of the 27th of October, and a majority of the countries on Earth have called for a ceasefire to end this conflict. However, one country is standing in the way of peace, and that is the United States. In multiple votes at the United Nations, the U.S. has been one of the only nations on Earth to vote against calls for ceasefires or a humanitarian truce. On the 27th of October, there was a vote in the UN General Assembly calling for a humanitarian truce in Gaza. The resolution also demanded humanitarian aid for besieged Palestinian civilians. This resolution had the support of the majority of the planet, including the vast majority of the countries in the global south and in the east. And it was really only the United States that opposed it, along with a few small allies, and many countries in the West also abstained on the vote. And if you look at a map, you can see that it's really clearly the West, or most of the West, against the rest of the world. The final vote ended up being 121 countries in favor of the humanitarian truce and 14 countries against, with 44 abstentions. Now, originally there was actually an error in the vote, and that's the country Iraq had voted in favor, but they said there was a technical error on their machine, and they later made it clear that they did not mean to abstain. They meant to vote in support of this resolution. So the actual number is 121 countries. Now, later on in this analysis, I'm going to explain some of the votes of these countries, but it is worth noting that the vast majority of the global south voted for the humanitarian truce, and the only large countries in the global south that abstained were India and the Philippines, both of which have very pro-US governments. But the vast majority of countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America did support the humanitarian truce, and even a few countries in Europe also supported the humanitarian truce. Portugal and Spain and France, they voted in support of the truce, along with Ireland and Belgium. Now, this is interesting because this is a recognition by a few Western countries that what Israel is doing is a complete massacre. They are killing thousands of civilians. Now, I want to be clear here. This was a United Nations General Assembly vote. This was not a vote in the Security Council, because the United States also used its veto power on two different votes in the UN Security Council. I made a separate video about that, in which I looked at a resolution that was introduced by Russia and voted on the 16th of October, and then another resolution on the 18th of October that was introduced by Brazil. Both of those resolutions called for peace in Gaza, and the U.S. vetoed both of those resolutions. So when I say that the U.S. is unilaterally going against the entire world and preventing peace in Gaza, I'm not exaggerating. It is literally the United States that is a rogue state that is standing against the entire world in opposing peace in Gaza and supporting Israel as it's committing war crimes and ethnic cleansing and killing thousands of Palestinian children.